I'd like to call this regular council meeting February the 14th to order. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Nixon, Councillor Sullivan, all in favor? Motion's carried. Is there, I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 24th. Councillor Lando, Councillor Sullivan, all in favor? Motion's carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes of January 24th? Anybody like to bring up? We are going to go into public hearings.
I'll step out, conflict of interest, as we work in litigation.
Just to, for council's information and for members of the public, we are going to do the first two, 305 4th Street East and 273 Perks Drive right now. And the other two, which are 1065 McCarty Crescent and 1115 Montana Place, will be starting at 4 o'clock. We staggered them just to try to accommodate the amount of people that are coming to the public hearing. So first two public hearings are going to be taking place right now. Again, 305 4th Street East and 273 Perks Drive. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. It's being convened pursuant to Section 464 of the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, the public will be allowed to make representations to council, and all persons present who believe their interests are affected by the proposed bylaw shall be given the opportunity to address council or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the proposed bylaw. Those of you who wish to speak concerning this proposed bylaw should commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and address. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Please observe the rules. If you have any concerns with the manner in which the hearing is conducted, direct your comments to the chair. Members of council may, if they wish, ask questions of you following the presentation. However, the main function of council members today is to listen to the views of the public. It's not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard at this meeting. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her views heard. In considering the proposed bylaw, council has received documents which may influence its decision. These documents are available for review in a binder located with the Director of Corporate Administration. Before we begin, may I have the corporate officer confirm that all due process was followed according to the Local Government Act?
Yes, Your Worship, for 305 4th Street East, the Amendment Bylaw 2142, I received 18 letters in opposition to the bylaw, and you have them all in your package. They're received before me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have started a speakers list that I have here that I'll go through. There will be a minimum of 3 times that I'll call to the public for any comments. There will be lots of opportunity. You are allowed to, if you hear something that you would like to comment on, you are allowed to come back up to the microphone again. So anyways, we are into public hearing for vacation rental for 305 4th Street East. And the first person that is indicated they may wish to speak is Christine Zerzan.
Not at this time.
Okay. James Walford.
I'll just wait.
Okay. Linda Goddard.
I'll hold off as well.
Okay. Jeff Colvin.
Yes, please.
Sorry, where's the microphone over here? You said microphone?
Microphone, just the podium.
Just the podium, okay. Thank you. I'm going to assume that through the letters that I sent you that everyone's read sort of my major concerns, so I'm not going to come up here and sort of repeat the issues that I've been dealing with to date, basically this fall. I'm also not going to come up here and just, I think, fearmonger about what if we get bad vacation renters that show up, what if somebody else moves in, all these unknowns that are potentially out there. I've addressed in my letter what's happening right now. These are the things that are going on next door to me. The applicant had an opportunity here. They knew the rules when they started the application process. They could have put their best foot forward. They could have shown themselves to be a good host to do this properly, and they've dropped the ball all along the way with the way that they've treated myself, and I think the way they've treated the city and the way they've treated the neighborhood. They haven't gone through the appropriate applications for their heritage alteration permit. Several people that live in the downtown area, we have to spend money. I spent that money. And they didn't even do that to change the color of their house. They're not a good neighbor to me, and they're not a good neighbor to the city, and they've been a huge headache to me. I also want to say that I think that the city staff needs assistance. They need some teeth, they need some way to be able to deal with a situation like this where there's an applicant that is going against what the city's saying. They don't have any power, and I felt that and I saw that in talking with city staff, and they've been supportive in the best way that they possibly can, but for the most part, I don't think they have the resources to deal with some of the problems that we have and some of the things that are going on. And it burdens me, I think, even more to think that the source of a lot of this headache and the source of a lot of this headache moving forward comes from one of our city councilors, comes from Revelstoke Vacation Rentals. And the fact that we've got a letter from the city going to the owner, to the homeowner, and that's got to be getting towards that manager, that this is not happening, and that the councilor that isn't able to sit in on the meeting today is continuing to rent that place, is continuing to work that, making my life extremely difficult, and making my life, and I feel like I'm following the rules, and I don't know why there isn't the support there to have that be stopped. Thank you very much.
The next person on the list is John Townley.
Yep. This is more a general sort of, I guess, my comments on how these vacation rentals are kind of being proposed and allotted, but I'll just give you, I'm just going to read a little bit from the letter that I wrote to council. We've lived in this neighborhood for 27 years, and many families in the adjacent blocks have lived here for at least that long. This is, and many much longer. It's a multi-generational neighborhood, and this could also go for a lot of neighborhoods in Revelstoke, not just ours. I don't want to be like protect, not my backyard kind of thing. This is, I've lived here a long time. I mean, I know people on council have as well, but it's starting to affect the way the town is looking, and I fear for the future if it continues in the way that these vacation rentals and the kind of gold rush mentality that's being taken over from Revelstoke. Our children were fortunate enough to have grown up here, as were many of their friends. I'm pleased to see a whole new crop of kids wandering off the Begbie View, participating in sports on local fields, using the pool, etc. There's seniors that have spent a good part of their lives here, and they also use the nearby facilities for recreation, education, leisure. They also are very involved in volunteer work, promoting community functions. These out-of-town vacation rental people who just speculate on our community, they have no involvement in our community. They have no, aside from paying a little bit of tax money for their rentals or for their properties, that's about it. They don't build our communities. We can't allow our neighborhoods to be commodified by allowing these vacation rentals to incrementally gut our well-established communities. I hear a lot of grumbling about this, and not a lot of people comment, or they're busy or something, they can't come to these kind of meetings. So, it's getting to the point where we're now starting to say, we've got to start standing up for ourselves, because our town's being taken away from us because of poor planning decisions. And a house like this, on a tiny little lot, with a back alley that is rarely, sporadically plowed, and they say, oh, we can park 3 cars back there. This seems like we shouldn't even be having this discussion over this house. It's obvious that's not a good candidate for a vacation rental, or some sort of, we need long-term rentals in this community. Downtown, people that are gonna contribute to the community, that are gonna, work here, they're gonna volunteer here, they're gonna raise their kids here. They might not be able to afford it, but maybe they can at least rent a place downtown. So, I strongly urge council and the planning department to take a cautious look at the long-term consequences of these short-term decisions. Thank you.
Gary Starling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm Gary Starling, 219 3rd Street East, and I have a few things to say about this as well. I'm against the licensing of this property for vacation rental, and I know council is looking at different designations for vacation rentals. This one, I believe, is being considered as a no owner on site operation. So other people have touched on it, the noise. This home is not suitable for a vacation rental. It's a narrow 50-foot or less, I believe, lot. And that makes it really problematic for noise. It's not reasonable to allow a vacation rental where there's a single family dwelling on either side, separated by only a few feet. Somebody else touched on it, it's old housing, there's no insulation. This particular proposal, they planted a hot tub directly under the neighbor's bedroom window. Didn't consult with the neighbor, that's already causing problems. Parking, Mr. Townley touched on that. This application is proposed parking at the located rear of the building. This can and will be an issue during periods of high snowfall. The alleyway is not cleared quickly, and the owner or management company in this case will not clear the rear lot in a regularly or timely fashion. And so far this is appearing to be the case, it just doesn't get cleared. The parking issue not only needs to be addressed on this property, but with other properties as well. I think the bylaw should include some wording to include permanent parking. So if you're going to do this and you create parking, there needs to be permanent parking. I looked at the one that was approved on 2nd Street. There was a parking plan that said they were going to have 3 parking spots, 1 in the garage and 2 on the yard. What they did was bulldoze the fence out of the way and throw some gravel down. The dilapidated old garage is still unusable. It's not suitable for parking, and it's never going to be. But they got approved. So where's everybody parking? On MacArthur, on the street, in front of our home, in front of our neighbor's home. It's absolutely craziness that that could get by inspection like that. I'm going to be a little bit here. I've got a few pages. Let's talk about the management of this property. This property is being used as a vacation rental. When I recently looked on Airbnb, and it had several bookings, and I believe staff watches the Airbnb site closely, and it's disturbing to me that several vacation rentals are still operating without going through due process and licensing and inspection, importantly. In this case, it's even more disturbing as the house in question is being operated by a company that is run by a city council. For me, this shows that this councillor has no respect or concern for the bylaws he's expected to uphold. So I ask you, what message does this send to the community?
Yeah.
Well, I think I'll answer that, because I have talked with our councillor about it, I have looked at it, but I think that what you have to look at here is the process that we're going. Now, I tried to look up the date of this one here, but we have one later on today that they applied in October, and it's coming to a public hearing today. So I know that the company is trying to get their people to go through the legal process, and they are coming through. That's what today is all about. So we have had a policy that we are now going into active enforcement. What does that enforcement mean is that when we come across one that is operating illegal, like this one and a few other ones, is that we give them an ultimatum. They turn back into, they shut down, they turn into a long-term rental, or they go through the process to become legal. That's what's happening here. So I just want to say that this is the process. He's encouraging anybody that's not legal to be going through the process. So I think that he's doing it the right way. And I'm not here to defend him, I'm here to explain the process that we're involved with.
Okay, so you talk about a policy. Is that a written policy? Because I've certainly never seen it.
A written policy.
You said there was a
Where's the
policy
policy?
that would allow somebody to operate a vacation rental without going through the process. You just said that.
I didn't say that. I said that we are,
You said there was a policy. With all due respect, you said there was a policy. So where is said policy? Because I've never seen it.
well, what I said was we're taking an active enforcement role where we're contacting illegal vacation rentals and we're giving them an ultimatum of what they should be doing. And one of them is going through the legal process of what we're doing today. And what I said was, we have one on today that, looking at their application, goes back to October. So it's taking time to get through the process.
They're allowed to rent.
So my question is then, you know, you're telling me that this is part of the process. So this vacation rental, as it sits right now, is operating illegally, outside of the bylaw.
Just
And
like-
that's okay.
Just like 50
That's
others
okay.
are. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, well,
that's what we
once
didn't do.
again, if there's a policy on that, I would like you to share that with the public, because I've
Well-
certainly never seen it.
I guess, Gary, it's no different than what was going on with previous council too. There was vacation rentals going on, they were illegal,
Yeah.
and we're trying
And
to
we informed the public
legalize.
that they had 12 months to get legalized. And this council decided to
I guess
turn
I've
it
never
into some
seen that
kind of Wild
policy.
West show where you just go on a complete basis. And now we're going through this process because that did not work, clearly.
Well, I guess I never saw the policy, we're giving people 12 months' notice.
There was a-
Regardless, this is where we're at. I just wanted to clarify where we are.
Okay, can I continue?
Absolutely.
Okay? So, my view on this is, as a counselor, you should lead by example. And integrity is something that should happen, not only when you're in the spotlight, but when nobody else is looking. And obviously, that's not the case here. Council should cherish democracy and work to improve the community. In this case, Councillor Duke, by his actions, has done exactly the opposite. It's patently unreasonable to think that a councillor should be able to operate outside of the bylaws, and he's clearly not working to help formulate these bylaws and uphold them. Council has been working to come up with workable solutions and bylaws to deal with vacation rentals, and this is becoming, as you know, a very difficult task. Meanwhile, in the background, Mr. Duke ignores the process and bylaws and actively works against them. How many more illegal vacation rentals are being operated by this company and others outside of the bylaw? Does staff track that? Does staff know? I would suggest that council gets a report from staff that outlines just that. All of the ones that are operating illegal by this company and others, and allow council to have a look at that. Let the public have a look at it. I think we deserve to know how many people are operating illegally. And by operating in this fashion, Councillor Duke has become part of the problem and not part of the solution. Open and honest. Open and honest. I heard that phrase repeated over and over and over by this group. Some of you, including Councillor Duke, suggested that council was not open and honest. And frankly, that was offensive. And now, with this situation going on, I ask you, who's open and honest? Who's the open and honest ones here? Unfortunately, all of council, by allowing this to continue, becomes painted with the same brush. When is this council going to have the courage of conviction to deal with this situation? By allowing this to continue and by allowing Mr. Duke to operate in this fashion, you're complicit and equally responsible, in my opinion, my humble opinion. And it's illegal what's going on here, operating outside of the bylaw. I've sat through several of these vacation rental hearings, and one sentiment that comes across quite clearly is discussion about being a good neighbor. Again, in this case, it's sadly lacking. The management of this property placed a hot tub under the window, we know that. He screwed a fence to the neighbor's garage and started the operation of a vacation rental, all without the consultation of neighbors, or more importantly, without proper inspection and license. And that, to me, clearly demonstrates there's no concern for anything here other than the generation of income. And again, this proves that the operator, in this case, City Council, has no respect for process or bylaws. as not being a good neighbor. There's been a lot of discussion also in other meetings, and this one as well, about vacation rental properties and how they maintain them. And grass does not get cut in a timely fashion, repairs are few, snow removal is spotty at best, and this I call urban blight. And this brings the entire neighborhood value and appearance down. So while other property owners are busy all summer repairing, painting, planning, these homes sit empty, sometimes in a state of disrepair. What we are seeing more and more often is this type of thing. And the only reason, again, for the ownership of a property like this is pure profit. There's no commitment or engagement with the community, only profit. So I would hope that given the facts of what has been going on with this property and the concerns from the neighbors, that the council will not approve this application. It's problematic on many levels. And as well, I would ask that council act to rectify what is, in my opinion, a despicable situation that's undercutting the integrity of council, staff, and the entire community. By allowing this to continue, council has lost its moral compass. By allowing this to continue, council shows no respect for the process. This is in no way an acceptable practice for a councillor to engage in, repeatedly. As councillors and mayor, you're not each other's keepers. You don't hold hands. However, you all have been elected by the constituents of this city to do the best you can for the community. And you stand hand in hand in that responsibility. So by allowing this to continue, all of you, mayor and council, become entangled in this web of deceit. How can council and staff expect members of the community to live up to and respect the bylaws when a council member is operating in a lawless fashion like this? There appears to be little or no respect for the current process and bylaws, and the perception from my viewpoint is Councillor Duke seems to think this is a lawless state. He can do whatever he pleases. Policy dictates that Councillor Duke excuse himself from this meeting, as he would be in conflict. That's really too bad, because it would be much better if he was in here to hear this and answer to it himself, these complaints. I can't for the life of me figure out how he can justify operating in this fashion and still be effective on council. It's farcical. We could look at his parking practices of Councillor Duke and his employees, but that'll be for a different day. It's not the task at hand.
I think you've made your point.
Okay.
Was
Fair
your
enough.
understanding about
I had one more little blip, and I was just going to say that has nothing to do with the task at hand. So maybe
I think I've indulged you quite a bit on this. If you want to talk about 305 4th Street, I would be happy to hear.
Okay, well, I'm done talking about 305 4th Street then. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open if anybody would like to say anything about the vacation rental for 305 4th Street. Floor is yours, Eileen.
Eileen Fletcher, 415 Mackenzie Avenue. You've already received a letter from us. I too am very frustrated. This vacation rental is located 2 blocks from our home. We can see it from our front porch. In fact, from our front porch, we can see 9 properties that are being operated as some kind of short-term rental. 1 is compliant with the zoning and the regulations. The other 8 are not. We have raised concerns about these short-term uses through meetings, communications with city staff, and with council. We have seen just about every trick in the book so that our concerns are not heard. Apparently, development is the only priority. A safe, healthy neighborhood is not. We have lived at the corner of 4th and Mackenzie for almost 35 years. For most of that time, we were the newcomers, because our neighbors have been there 50 or 60 years, and in some cases over 90 years. lifelong residents are part of the special quality of this neighborhood. And we have always thought we would enjoy several more decades here. In the past 2 years, we've seen a rapid transition. Now the houses around us are revolving doors with strangers constantly coming and going. We are told, why should we care? We hear that from staff. We hear that from councillors. We hear that from people who want to buy into the development profits. We won't be around to see big changes, so why should we care? In other words, get out of the way of development. Our corner of 4th and Mackenzie may well be the canary in the coal mine for the disintegration of our neighborhood, but the process has started. And here's my neighbors. This vacation rental application should not proceed, and there should be no more vacation rental applications considered in established residential neighborhoods, including ours, until there are workable policies and procedures in place that we understand as a community and accept as a community. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen. The floor is open for anybody that wishes to speak.
I live at 216 East 4th. I'm in the immediate neighborhood of this vacation rental. And I understand you're in a tough spot. This is a difficult topic, and it's a difficult topic for many communities. We're all struggling through it. I don't think we've perfected it yet. I don't see how legalizing this process, putting in the zoning, is actually addressing the problems. Yes, maybe there's somebody you can call on, but why should Jeff have to every night get up at 11 o'clock to say that, hey, those guys are partying again? It's tough with long-term rentals too, but usually if you've got a long-term rental next to you, you can communicate with them and make it work. I'm not sure why this particular application made it this far, just given that the parking is a 37-foot wide lot. You can't put 3 cars. And one of them there's a shed back there, so you'd maybe get a Volkswagen Beetle. And there's no parking. Parking on 4th Street, no parking at night, it's an issue. And obviously, we've got a lot of people concerned about the deterioration of our community. And I wonder why we are still considering this process when we've got a development like Mackenzie Village coming on, where I've been told the entire subdivision is going to be zoned vacation rental. So there's somewhere between 800 and 1,200 vacation rental units coming on in the next several years. Why are we still trying to shoehorn in these vacation rentals? In my immediate neighborhood, there are several vacation rentals, some legal, some illegal, and there are B&Bs. And I have to say that the 2 B&Bs that are immediately in my neighborhood, I didn't even know they were B&Bs until I commented on their great snow plowing. I was wondering if they had energy to come snow plow at my place, and that's when I discovered they were B&Bs. When there's an owner living on site, there are no issues at all. But these out-of-town owners, even if they have a property management company, it's not like it's the owner there loving and caring for the property and their neighbors and what goes on there. It just isn't the same even with property management company. I mean, somebody's shoveling snow and they were shoveling it over the fence into the neighbor's yard. Who does that? I just don't see it fitting into these tight neighborhoods, and it just doesn't make sense anymore in the residential areas when we have houses in the commercial areas, they're zoned commercial, that's a likely spot, and then a subdivision like Mackenzie Village coming on. If we're going to zone that for vacation rentals, let's put them up there. Thanks.
Thank you. floor is open for anybody that wishes to address council. State your name and address, please.
James Walford, 217 4th Street East. As you all got my letter, I just want to state about the safety of our children, the extra traffic. You don't know who's coming into the neighborhood with these strangers coming in. I'm really concerned about the young children because you just don't know who's coming into that building to rent. I've got a young grandson living with me right now, and I'm concerned about his safety. The parking issue, you should also, like I said in my letter to you guys, you go around the corner from me there, and they're parking at an angle onto the street. And if there's a fire truck has to get through there, they can't half the time with the big truck they got now because everybody's angled parking and the city has to go dipsy doodle around them. And it's just horrendous. And to digress a little bit, because I have to go up to Arrow Heights and down Newlands Road, I don't know if there's a legal vacation rental up there, but at night they're parking on the street, and when you have to stop to let the other person go because they're parked on the street in the way, and that's the same thing that's happening in our neighborhood right now. Thank you for your time.
The floor is open if anybody would like to speak on this vacation rental for 305 4th Street East.
Councilors,
Just state your name and address for the record.
Eve Rushmore, and I live at 410 Cedar Street, and I am the property manager. So, I just wanted to speak on behalf of the owner, because he's not here to speak for himself, Richard Grady, and I will resist any urges to speak about vacation rentals in general and Councilor Duke, and the way in which he chooses to run his company.
Louder, please.
I
can't hear you back here.
Okay, so Richard Grady, I just wanted to be able to speak for him and who he is and shed some light onto that. So he bought his house about 7 years ago, and he did live there with his family for a few years. He's from New Zealand. With a family emergency, he moved back to New Zealand to maintain custody of his kids and basically keep his family together during some harder times. But because they were unsure of what they would do with their house, they decided to rent it and maintain their ties in the community. So he's not a complete stranger to us here. He's a pilot, and he's a really great and worth contributing member to this town. So we rented the house for the past 5 years, and I have here the leases of everybody who lived there, and there's about 8 over the years. Because the house is fully furnished, it really lent itself to rentals of anywhere from 1 to 6 to 8 months. As much as we tried to rent it on a yearly basis, it would be a little bit too expensive for some families to afford, as there are a lot of nicer homes in this community. So the reality is, over the course of 5 years, he had a construction crew for 2.5 months. He had a group of contractors. He had a ski group for a season of 4 to 5 adults. He had a sled group after that. He had a traffic control group. In the summer there, he also had a firefighting group of 3 to 4 adults. He had another ski group for 8 months. He had a group of longer-term 30-some-year-old residents of the town. And he had another group of guys that rented for 4 months, and then another group for another 5 months. So that's a lot of tenants over the course of 5 years. Out of those, between the construction crews, the sledders, the skiers, even if you rent to 4 people, they all have boyfriends, girlfriends, friends, partners, people coming up for the weekend, and they all have a lot of vehicles. Particularly, we saw some problems with the sledders and the traffic control over the years, and then construction crews, which would be parked up and down the street because there was no parking at the house. So that being said, that is the history of where the house has been to date, and the owner has made a decision because he saw a lot of wear and tear at the house over the years of having a lot of different people in there. As much as we can try and control a residential renter, there's only so much that we can do as a property management company. And realistically, it is over 5 years, it's a lot for a house to take on. So he saw the wear, and then, and the house was starting to deteriorate over the years, as aging homes do. So he decided to try vacation renting it. And what he did to adhere to the bylaws is he hired local contractors. He hired somebody to grade and fill and put in parking in the back of his house to meet, and he has met the bylaw requirements for parking. It is there's no question about that and no problem with that. He has hired a local contractor, Troy Barron, to completely repaint the exterior of his house from top to bottom. And there's no more garbage on the porch, there's no more couches on the porch and skiers sitting out front smoking cigarettes and having barbecues out back. And contractors coming in and out with their trucks parked up and down the street. He also has, the inside of the house is pretty good, but as far as curb appeal, he also took down a rotting fence, added an extra 3 feet to it and put a brand new fence up on both sides. And he had put a hot tub back there. I believe it's actually propping up one of the neighbor's fences as we speak. But the thing is he got his license in early. He's adhered to every bylaw requirement which the city has requested of him. And he's also dramatically increased the curb appeal to his house. The wear and tear and the impact on the neighborhood, I would say, will be significantly improved as a vacation rental than having 4 to 6 long-term or 5 months or 4-month ski bums living in there. The thing is he now he can come and use his family in there.
Excuse me.
I'm just speaking to Richard Grady and to what the history and what the plan is with his house. And the fact of the matter is he's turned his property. He has significantly increased the curb appeal. He painted it with heritage colors to match the feel of the community. He's added parking requirements which were never required when it was a residential rental. And he's brought it up to speed as far as any sort of fire safety code which is required of a vacation rental. So he has gone above and beyond to adhere to the bylaws which the city has brought into place. And it has significantly improved his house for that exact reason. And he put in his license. He's hired Jake and Jay to do the snow, whether they're doing a good, bad, medium job. We get a lot of snow in the town. He's hired a local cleaning company. He's hired a local property management company. And he comes to use the property now freely as he needs to. And the fact of the matter is that it is not, he will not be living there permanently until he can come back here with his children or with himself. But it will be a rental property regardless, and I know that's a hard thing in this community to not have a full-time neighbor. But that being said, he has gone above and beyond, and he was happy and more than happy to make any investment required to meet the city bylaws and to bring his property so that it was in keeping with the surrounding neighborhood, which has been a great improvement. To address any concerns in general, I think with our company in regards to noise or concerns about people partying, things like that, it wouldn't be what our company is more than capable of doing, because we do have 24-hour on-call service, is to suggest adding to the bylaw that there is any vacation rental, they have to be inspected by the property manager at 11 p.m., which is the bylaw quiet time, to make sure that people are, when you're not on site, because it's not always going to be an option for an owner to be there, for them, it would just be something that I think would help as well. But, and that's more or less it. The thing is this community is changing, and it has changed over the years, and there's a lot of different parts to it that have been really scary and that have been caused us some grief, and not everybody likes what those changes look like, and not everybody is in love with what those changes look like here. Personally, I work down the street and I work next to a bar, and I work all day. I often work until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and my neighbor in that community is a lot of drunk, rowdy people. And when I have to come to work in the morning, my neighbor has left cigarette butts on my door, they've left beer cans, they've left puke in our community, and that's frustrating, and that's too bad, and that's a neighbor of mine. Some people also don't like the mill and the
305?
logging industry, because those are poor neighbors as well. And they can be, and a lot of people would probably argue that Downey is not a great neighbor either as an industry, but it's helpful for this town, and it's necessary for us to grow. A lot of people would say CP is not the best member of this community either, or a lot of the hotels. So, it's scary what's happening. And some people don't like the mill, some people don't like vacation rentals, some people don't like Australians,
I
and
want to
some
get us
people
back
don't like
to,
DP.
I want to get us back to the property we're talking about.
The point I'm trying to make is in
I get
general
what you're
to
trying to say.
address that it is scary and we don't know exactly what it's gonna look like. But you made a bylaw and you've encouraged a lot of people who were previously in this community operating illegally to pay to upgrade their house and to come forward and to meet every requirement which you asked of them. And they've done that.
Part of the
They've done
requirement
wholeheartedly.
is going through a public hearing like this too and listening to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So there is, this is part of it.
Yeah, and out of concerns that are actually applicable to this house, I hear parking, which has been addressed and meets your requirements, and I hear hot tub. Those are the concerns related very specifically to this property and not to speculative vacation rentals in general.
Thank you. Bruce?
So, I think that was a wonderful presentation, because you just demonstrated exactly what we're talking about, the rotating people coming through the community. I own apartments, I have 2 apartments. In 5 years, it's rolled over twice. I've had 4 sets of renters. I question if you're turning
Bruce,
over renters.
Bruce, keep the comments coming to me, please.
Okay.
I don't want to back and forth with the
No,
audience.
fair enough. So I'm saying, what's going on that the renters are turning over so rapidly? Something's amiss. We're saying that we're losing our community. Okay, that's one issue. A second issue is parking. Do you have any idea what parking is happening down there? We're not talking little Volkswagens. We're talking one-ton trucks with skidoo trailers behind them. I can't park in front of my house sometimes. Right? This happens to me. And the third thing I want to say is, why are we rushing ahead with approving all these vacation rentals when we have no policy or procedure to evaluate how we approve them? It seems as if you get enough people in the room, they don't get approved. But if you have a community that has to work, and you can't make these meetings, it gets approved. So I'm not sure what's going on here. Let's have a policy. Let's have planning. Let's not just willy-nilly 125 of these things in town. I've even heard, not Plum Park, put them downtown. Nobody lives downtown. So I'm opposed to this one. But I also want you to start thinking about the neighborhoods. What's happening? Black windows, right? It's changing, and sure, change is difficult. But let's have some planning to moderate the change, not just whoever wins, whoever shows up the most people, they win, they don't get one. If you don't show up, you get one. This is madness.
Hang on, Brian. James, did you want to come up?
All I gotta say is, Bruce, you just took the words right out of my mouth about the parking, because with those big trucks, if they got a sled on the back, they're overhanging it. I've already said that in my letter. They're overhanging into the alley. And if go back to the fire trucks, that's a fire lane. And if they're hanging over there, and there's a fire in the neighborhood, there goes quite a bit of the neighborhood. But just want to correct Jeff on one thing though, but about the colors of a house, I just thought, covered by the Heritage Conservation Area. And that's it. But I'm just totally opposed to this because it's just not the right neighborhood to be doing this. The lot size, get back to that, is not the right size. It's just a whole bunch of no's. Thank you again.
Thank you. Brian? Or sorry,
Jeff.
Jeff, yeah. And thank you for making that clear about the paint color. That was city staff that told me that. I'll address that in a second. When sort of, as living next door, he didn't live there for 3 years. Over the rotating tenants that we heard of there, for really short-term rentals through that time period, that was the vacation rental company managing that. That was the rental company there. I know that at the time there was specific, which I think potentially are illegal rules about the fact that they were renting it out just for the ski season for $2,200 a month, and then they bumped the rent down to try to fill people up while they were there in the summer on a lease, getting them out of there for the winter so they could jack the rent back up. This is the type of owner and property manager that we're dealing with on that property. That construction company or flagging crew or whichever one that was warming their trucks up in the morning, diesel trucks warming them up at 5 a.m. Yeah, you bet that bothered me and my sleeping infant. And I walked outside and I said, guys, I got an infant, I got a 7-month-old sleeping up in that room. You know what they did every day since? They walked out, they said, to heck with it, they fired the truck off and they took off. Because they listen. And I don't have to say that every single day. I say it to them once. Yeah, they're out there partying. They throw a bonfire in the back. Hey guys, you know, we can listen to all that upstairs. We can hear everything. So at night, it's all good, right? And no problem. And then we can keep rolling on. And that change, that difference, the facts that were coming out there don't jive with the resident that's been there the entire time. Even some of the things about anyways, it's petty. Some of those components. And I'll go to the other point that I wanted to talk about is because you brought it up, and it's in talking to the city staff, I went in there and I said, hey, first of all about the parking, and I said, they can't do it, they have a shed there. Well, to throw everybody a bone there, they just have to tear down the shed and they've met the requirements. So that's why we're still talking about this, even though they don't have the parking. They just have to tear down the shed and it's all good to go. But when I asked why they're able to operate right now, starting up after all this conversation has been happening, the answer I got that the policy is that we're gonna let it go. We're gonna wait it get to council. We're gonna wait till the public hearing. Similar to what you said. When I challenged that, the staff then kind of backpedaled a little bit, same as you did, and went back to sort of best practice. And best practice is that we're not really going after, we're not actively enforcing people that are trying to follow the rules. And the big issue there is, and maybe it's come up, maybe somebody knows the answer to this, I don't believe that's written down somewhere. I don't believe anyone has decided that, or if someone has decided, the only time I've ever seen it in print is through our local media and a conversation with you, or then now on the record of this. I don't know where that best practice, this policy is, that we're letting these vacation rentals just operate while it's the person that's following the rules that has to suffer. And I don't, that piece does not make sense to me. They were taking bookings actively since they got the letter from the city, and I'm not sure if one of the city staff is supposed to speak to this, but they were asked after I challenged the city staff about the fact that there's no policy that says they can keep operating, staff did then send the homeowner a message so that I understand this. I don't have a copy of this. I don't think I'm privy to that. City staff sent a message to the homeowner saying you needed to stop. They didn't stop, and they continue to take bookings. They're going to be staying there for the next week. If this gets turned down today, what's going on? I'm starting to question how this operator even has their business license if they're being told by the city to stop, and they're not. That doesn't make sense to me.
Floor is open for 205 First Street East. Anybody like to speak?
I'd just like to just comment on that back alley again. I have that same back alley. I'm just one block over between MacArthur and Horton. I have photos of this whole weekend. That alley has not been, it got plowed last night. And that's pretty typical of that alley. It doesn't get plowed regularly. And, you know, we deal with it. That's fine. But like, if you're gonna, you know, have a vacation rental back there that is supposed to park in the back alley, this is a no-go. There's no way. You're gonna get stuck back there. you know, who's gonna come and pull them out? Like, it plugs the, it's silly. It's really silly, and again, I'm really surprised that this came this far to actually having this discussion over that little 37-foot lot in a, you know, well-established community. Like, it's kind of ridiculous that council and the planning department haven't, like, sort of looked at this and gone, yeah, this is ridiculous. What are we doing to the neighborhood? What are we doing to the neighborhood, all the neighborhoods, by inserting these vacation rentals, you know, incrementally? They're just kind of gutting the community, and then soon you're gonna have people moving away, right? And then what have you got left? You just got like a little rental town, and like, you know, it's a pretty special town, Revelstoke. It's all the time we've been there, we feel fortunate to have lived in a town, and everyone who comes to visit us, they marvel at our town. And to throw that away, it's like, boy, some people have made some poor decisions, you know, if that ever comes to fruit. Thank you.
Is there anybody for a second time that would like to speak to this 305 4th Street vacation rental? Is there anybody for a third and final time that would like to speak to this vacation rental 305 4th Street East? Looking for a motion to close this public hearing. Councillor Nixon, Councillor Sells, all those in favor? Motion is carried.
Your worship, I'll bring this forward for discussion purposes only, that zoning amendment bylaw 2142 be read a third time.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, second by Councillor Sells. Councillor Nixon.
Your worship, I won't be voting in favor of this freestanding vacation rental. We've heard loud and clearly from this neighborhood. And this is part of the public hearing process that we hear from the neighborhood. And we're doing our very best to try and get the advertising out ahead of time. But the hearing is coming up, and we're sorry that you know, we're getting to the end of the cap of our freestanding vacation rentals, and staff will be bringing us a report. And we're seeing a trend where council is becoming really comfortable with the person who lives in their own home and offers some housing to visitors to Revelstoke, an experience of staying in Revelstoke. But the freestanding vacation homes are going to be very rare that they're going to fly through council. So I won't be voting in favor.
I think it's pretty obvious how the community feels about this vacation rental. And I know that somebody has put a couple of quotes of mine into the letter, and I stand by that. And I think that it's being echoed by some of the people that made comments here. It's being a good neighbor. When people are going through a public hearing process, they come into City Hall, and they're given advice on how that they should be proceeding with their vacation rental. They should be talking to the neighborhood. They should be looking at what they think their chances of success are based on, is their complaints being received? Is the neighborhood happy with the vacation rental? And somebody had commented that they didn't even know that there was B&Bs in the neighborhood, and I do hear that from time to time, that they didn't know that there was a vacation rental. Unfortunately, that's not the case here, and I think that this person has tried by fixing up their place, and that is commendable. But when you're getting into areas where the lots are a lot smaller and the houses are closer together, it's a lot more difficult to run a vacation rental in a neighborhood like that, like we're talking about here. And I have not voted in favor of other vacation rentals that were in even higher density neighborhoods just because of that. I think it's a difficult business to run. People are here to have a good time, and sometimes every now and then they get carried away, and that's an intrusion in the regular neighborhood, and that's what we have to listen to here. But as you can give people all the advice in the world, and they still want to go ahead with it, and they're given the option of doing other things, but they still choose to go through the process, and anyways, I'm going to be, I'll be voting against this one here, just like I will be voting against other ones that I don't think are a good fit. They don't meet the criteria that we're trying to do, and they're not being a good neighbor. Councillor Orlando.
Your Worship, I won't be supporting this application for a number of reasons, one of which is definitely opposition from the neighbors and many different points that were expressed here. However, I do, Your Worship, have a question of staff, and I think it might be something good to get a better understanding while the audience, while the hearing members who spoke at the hearing are here. And that is, my understanding, according to a council resolution from about 4 or 5 months ago, was that vacation rentals that are not in compliance, who don't have the bylaw approved, that we have switched to an active enforcement policy. And I know that's the case. I'm hearing about various places, but is there some sort of a unwritten policy or practice whereby those who have applied for this bylaw amendment are being treated in a different way than people who just are renting them and have no plan?
Anybody want to answer that? Mr. Chabot?
Well, Your Worship, I can drive from my perspective, and I won't be, this thing changes its complexion almost daily in the community, and so it's important, but I think it is probably the appropriate approach where we're seeking to legalize the operation and regulate them within a policy framework, that those people that have made application, have put up their money, deserve their opportunity to have this hearing and for council to decide whether they should be continued. We've got to recognize the sheer number of illegal vacation rentals currently in the community, probably in excess of 100, and what is our resource capacity to address those. And so, as I understand it, planning department has prioritized the more egregious offenders, properties advertising in excess of 10 beds, those that might present a life safety risk to occupants, or those that have been subject to complaint in the community. And so we're not going to fix this problem overnight, but we are going to tackle it in time. And I think it is important to note that a number of people have been encouraged to apply in the hopes of getting approved, and they have made investments in the property. And so I think it's only fair that they do get the opportunity to come to this venue, and we hear from the community. Council makes its decision.
Any other comments? Councillor Souls.
Your Worship, I will state the same thing that all of you are stating, that I won't support this going forward for the very reasons that the members of the community have come forward and stated. But I will say that we've started a process now of going through these public hearings, and for those of you who wonder why we're doing this, we've started this process because there was never a formal process in my mind prior to this, so we needed to start somewhere. So we're going forward. It's not a perfect process, and but we need to carry on and at least complete this part for that cap. I think that will define things as we go along, and we've stated that prior to. But in the meantime, for the communities that have vacation rentals and it's suitable, we'll see them go through. Where we see areas it's just not suitable, then you'll see councillors not voting for it.
Just want to remind council that the motion on the floor is to approve the zoning amendment bylaw to be read a third time. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Against? Motion is defeated. I'll take a 2-minute break while we change over to the next